Hey, how you doing? Welcome to the Tarot Flow Show. It's the world's only tarot talk show where synchronicity is the star. I'm your host, Alison Pickering. I am super thrilled to be here today with, on the bottom left, my co-host from Stockholm, Sweden, the student of all things spiritual, Kefri Skarabus. Welcome, Kefri.
Thank you, Alison. Nice to be here.
Thank you. I'm glad to have you here. It's about noon here, so that makes it, about 9 p.m. where you are?
Yeah, 9:15, we can say.
9:15, and it's still light because it's the Scandinavian summer, so that's lovely. We have today, and I'm so thrilled to welcome today our special guest who I've met recently in my own kind of business up and comingness, and I want to really praise and welcome with open arms our next guest today. MINNIE GUPTA is someone who is a business and social media and advertising consultant. She has given me great things to think about. She's a mother of 3 wonderful adult girls. She is a wife and a flower of the beautiful state of North Carolina, where it's probably about 3 in the afternoon now. So we've got our little global tarot thing going now with Miss MINNIE GUPTA. Welcome, MINNIE GUPTA.
Hello.
How you doing? Thank you for joining us today. How's life in North Carolina? You're looking very flowery, gorgeous, beautiful. Tell us about how you doing today.
Oh, doing well. I'm really excited for this call. It's kind of a rainy day here in North Carolina, but it's still, 95 degrees and hot. So I am happy to be inside, and I'm very excited to have this call with you guys. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you.
Thank you. We were talking a little before we began the show today about some spiritual experiences that we had, each of us had at different times in our life. And it seems like this is not a new thing to you, working with tarot or with symbol and oracle. I can see that you have some beautiful things on your wall behind you that are meaningful in terms of spiritual development. Talk to us a little bit about how symbol and synchronicity have been working in your life.
So, my background is from science. So I come from a background where I really need proof for everything. And I spent many years doing that before I went into business on my own. But my religious background, which I wouldn't say I'm a religious person, I'm more of a spiritual person, but is Hinduism. So in Hinduism, there is a lot of spirituality, there's a lot of symbolism, there's so much symbolism, and rituals is what this religion is based on. And so my mind has always been open. And I think in the last couple of years, post-COVID kind of time frame, when we were all at home thinking and had plenty of time to do so, and then I had an illness in the family, which also opened my eyes. I was looking for other things to bring peace into my life, basically, and to get through certain situations. And with that, I did a lot of reading on manifesting mindsets, the power of the subconscious, Joe Dispenza, all of that. And all of it resonated so true with me. Like I didn't even... if I would have read it maybe 10 years ago, it may not have been the time for me, but this was the exact time. So when I started consuming that information, doing more meditating, thinking about my subconscious, changing the way that I think about things. I did have an experience where one day I was meditating, and I don't meditate for long, maybe 20, 25 minutes, but I felt like the room was shaking and that my body was shaking. And I opened my eyes and I looked around, and I was still feeling like I was visibly shaking, but there was nothing going on. There was no earthquake, nothing was happening. So I really feel like it was some energetic thing that was happening within me. And so, I truly believe it. I've done manifesting, and I found a lot of things to happen when I do that. So I do feel like, because my mind is so open to it, I think is why it happened so quickly, where I just subconsciously now allowed myself to believe it, and my thinking changed. And I think I went to that higher plane a lot faster maybe than I would have 10 years ago or so.
Thank you. I think you really keyed in on something important, and that was kind of when your cynicism and your unwillingness to consider kind of idea is so strong, it's hard for other things to make it through. And so you kind of need to get softened up to it, perhaps through emotional experiences and things like that. But when you give up that resistance, things really can flow. They really can flow pretty quickly. So may they flow wonderfully into your life. May you be wonderfully successful and have a wonderful life, because I know that a lot of the things that you want to do with your success is to be of service and to give things. So if you were wildly successful and you had everything at your disposal, what might you do with your blessings? How might you share those? Do you have things that you want to do?
Yeah, I was just talking about this with somebody yesterday, because I think that if there was nothing else to worry about, I didn't have to think about the growth of my business in any other way. If I could just choose what I wanted, what I really love is working with women to help them unblock and to believe in their subconscious. And basically, I have a 3-step framework, which is basically, clearing your mind. So that's the unblocking part, like what's holding you back and working through that. And then the growth part, where you surround yourself with experiences and people that can serve as examples of what you want to be. Because without seeing that that's a possibility, it's hard to believe it's a possibility, right? So that's the growth part. And then the final part is the movement part, which is where you then have aligned action to move in the direction that you want. Because you can't just sit back and think, I want this, and then assume that the universe is just going to easily bring it to you. There has to be some action that you take that shows that you're moving in that direction, then that what you're thinking, you're actually working on, So, so I have those. So if I could do that, I would love to work with women and help them through that period as they're beginning to grow their business. Because I find that that's such an important part. If you are blocked in any way, or if you're wondering why things aren't working, there is a process that you can follow to unblock, grow, and move in the appropriate direction. So
beautiful. I'm very inspired. I wrote those things down. I myself was looking to get one of those continuous glucose monitors. So that's the CGM that I was thinking about, but this is a CGM of another sort. This is that clearing, growth, and movement action. And I'm really reminded of the suits in tarot and their connection to this process. And so as we look at those in a minute, perhaps you'll make a connection as well, because I think that gives your particular system a lot of underlying power, is because it does echo the process by which things do come into manifestation into the world. And so let's look at that, and let's look at how we might open the pathway for you to do. And why shouldn't you be able to do what you want to do? It's a wonderful thing to do. So if you could, let's say, yes, you can. And so I don't know if that's what the reading is going to reveal, if that's what it's going to be about. Is there anything that you want the reading to focus on as we move our little agenda forward here today? Or do you want to just kind of proverbially roll the dice and see what happens? How might this reading best serve you today?
I think just being in the flow. I would love to just see what's there for me and what I can get from it, and not necessarily ask questions.
Beautiful. Okay, so what we're going to do is just take a look, and as we get into the flow, we're going to ask you to pick a focus card. You are familiar with the major arcana. We'll do a quick run pass at those for those who are watching if they haven't seen. And those who are watching, if you don't know tarot, please take a look at any of our other shows. So this is the faster format show. Our other shows have a more extensive introduction into the cards and the images, so feel free to check out any of those that are from June and July 2024. Any of those will give you a very solid intro. And so for what we're going to do today is we're going to pick a focus card, make some connections. We're going to do the reading. And again, like any reading, like any consideration, like any book you might read or experience you might have, it's all in the reflection. It's all how you think about it. And so we think of it as like we have our horizontal experiences through life, where we move through life in time, and then once in a while we have a chance to pause and look at what's really fully in that particular moment. So that's what we're going to do today, is kind of take that moment in time and the images that are shown to us and see what we can glean from that, and then how can that best benefit you in your forward trajectory and your upward growth and all that good stuff. So that's what we're going to do today with this journey of the Fool, who is the main character in the tarot as he goes through his life lessons or soul path, which is depicted in these major arcana. These are 22 of the 56 cards of the tarot. As we look at these cards, Minnie, is there a particular one of these that has meaning for you, or that you would like us to just look at? This is not the reading. This is just unpacking a card to see, so people can, we're just going from a bird's eye view into a more focal view on a particular major arcana to see the spiritual lessons that are drawn into it.
I guess I would like to maybe look at the Empress.
Wonderful. I think that's a beautiful card for you. Absolutely. And so Kefri's going to put that up on our interface now, and we'll take a look at this beautiful Empress. We can see her, and we can see the golden sky. So a golden sky is an important thing to consider because that's the heart of the tree of life. It's the heart and the centeredness of, let's say, the six-pointed star that comes down. There's an upward pointing triangle and a downward pointed triangle. And when they come together in balance, that's in this place of unity and that beautiful yellow color that's all over this card. We can see that she has roses, or are they pomegranates? It's roses on her garment. She's often depicted as pregnant because the power of the Empress is her power of creativity. She is the big earth mother, as opposed to the high priestess, who's more like the big earth virgin kind of thing, or the mystery woman. This is more the mother, the powerful mother. And mothers are also powerful in a negative way as well as a positive way. You can see all the symbols of fertility. There's the Venus on the shield there, the symbol of Venus. We've got the wheat. She's on cushy pillows. And so there's this idea of the bountifulness and the lushness of creation. There's a beautiful flowing river and trees. She has a scepter of rulership, and she's very comfortable in her victory. And you can see she has both a crown of stars as well as a laurel wreath of victory. And she is the ruling mother of the major arcana. Kefri, when we think about the Empress, what are some other things we should consider?
It's very much about growth, actually, because there is a lot of things that is growing here, but also the connection to Venus is also a connection to both life and death, actually, because Venus is also connected to death, and that is also the green color inside of the Venus, I believe, in this card, that is also showing that life and death are two important part of life, so to speak. So that is also in here, and it is 40 roses or pomegranates on her dress, actually, and that is a very mysterious number in Hebrew teachings, in Kabbalistic teachings. It's also in many other religions, and it is also the 40 weeks of a gravity also is in here, and there is a lot of things, and there is also, this card is also connected to the Hebrew letter Dalet, that means door, and that means that this card is also an opening into something else, actually. So there is a transformation in this growing, that you don't come out from it in the same way you got into it. And that could also be applied on the motherhood, actually. When you got into it before the children was born, you wasn't the same lady that you will be afterwards, and that is the door also could be. So that is also a bit of symbology in this. And there is also this little strike of water from the river in the end of the card, actually. And that is also about emotions, because this is an emotional card also. And again, the connection to Venus and love and everything. So that is a bit of what I can see in the card.
Thank you. Minnie, you talked before about kind of mental processes. And so we've right now taken a very analytical mental process on these cards where we've been kind of taking it apart for its components. But the real power in these cards is in their synthesis, is in the holistic kind of impression that they give. And as you look at this card and as you've worked with this card in your experiences, what comes to you kind of in a feeling tone, or what are you reminded of in yourself when you think about the Empress?
Well, I think that really the powerful woman, right? Like all of us are. And the juggling of many things and the roles that we have in life, which is mother, which is creator, which is, the opener of doors in many different ways. And it was interesting.
Being the door, literally.
Being the door, yes.
Yeah.
And I also found interesting because we had talked just a few minutes ago before we got on the call that I had just come back from a trip to Wyoming and Montana, and how that nature just hit me so hard this time. So when I look at the trees and the waterfall and how that all ties together with creation and creativity and that kind of thing, I just feel like I was just there. And I felt the same way when I was there. So it's an interesting similarity.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So this is absolutely Mother Nature. 100% the Empress is Mother Nature. And I mean, because we can see, oh, Mother Nature, she's so beautiful. But Mother Nature is also a tsunami, and it will swallow us up without a consideration. It's also an avalanche. It has its own dynamics, and we are little ants in the way in some ways to the processes of Mother Nature. So we have to recognize the power of these archetypes or these entities that we live amongst, and so that's an interesting thing. So thank you for engaging in this little analytical, synthetic kind of intellectual process with us here. And now we're going to jump into the more intuitive piece, which is into the reading. And so as we go past our major arcana, then we're going to take a quick look at the minors. And this is where I was reminded when you were talking about the idea. So if we look at this left to right, and then also consider the suits to be an idea of kind of top down. So the wands being on the top, being like the interface or our intersection with the source of ideas. We don't really control that. We don't know what the source of our ideas and intuition is, or the shakes that you had, what you felt so specifically, even though your physical world wasn't reflecting it. Whatever that was is kind of a wandy experience and that magic, magic wand. But it's very otherworldly, and we attempt to contact it, but we mostly just interpret it. We mostly receive it and respond to it. And the way we respond to it then is with where we do have this is the place where we have control, and that's in the emotions. And so from that fire of spirit into the emotions, that's where, and this is where you're talking about, I think, really doing a lot of clearing. And as you clear that channel, you can then plan for the kind of growth, which is more than in the planning process and the intellectual process that's reflected in these air swords. Mm-hmm. And then finally, when that has been, so as you've cleared the emotional channel and then made your decisions as far as your growth moves and your decisions that you want to make, then you can bring them into action, which is then the suit of the Pentacles. So action is both swords as well as pentacles, because the action is also in the planning. And so it's a bit of a blend of these three, I would say, is your system. Not to simplify it to this, but just to show you the connections to larger underlying universal organizing principles. You're really tuned in here as far as a productive way for working with people is to do that emotional clearing, and then to look at how the movement can be planned and carried out. And so as the carrying out happens, the carrying out is in time, is in physical, and that's the pentacles, and that's why they're so slow. That's why that horse is just standing there. Because we have to grow the food, and we're going to have to water the ground and make sure the crows don't eat the seeds so that we don't all starve and things like that. There's considerations and slowness and protections and all kinds of nature. We have to work with nature. So back to the Empress, we have to negotiate to a large degree with her in how we live our life, because we really can't go against her. for very long. Anyway, do you remember that old commercial back in the day? We may be of a close enough age that it was like, "Don't mess with Mother Nature."
Oh yeah, yes, yeah, I do.
So I'm kind of reminded in that with that Empress card and with because we can have our little human hubris for a certain degree, and then at a certain point, then it is just not sustainable, and the earth will let us know. And so there you go. So there's our suits. Let's take a quick look at the wands, that sparky suit of intuition. You can see the 1 to 10, and then the court cards, lots of fire in the court cards. And then our cups, very emotional, lots of color, lots all through the rainbow here, because we run the gamut with our emotions, lots of watery symbols in those court cards. Mm-hmm. Then it gets pretty cool, and lots of black in the court cards, because when in the swords, because when you make decisions, you necessarily have to eliminate other things. Mm-hmm. And that is it's a process of separation. And that's involved in the swords. And then we have this much warmer yellow suit of the pentacles with lots of black and yellow, like little honeybees, I just thought of, but all of the fertility and the carrying out of the physical reality and all of its glory and difficulty. Mm-hmm. So there's some of our suits, and here's our reading that we're going to do today. And as we look at this, the reason the Chariot's there is because he's number 7. Is we're going to use 7 cards. You can see Kefri's been shuffling this whole time as I've been blabbing. Yeah. And this is a very wordy show. There's no doubt. We talk, but the real power in this is the images. And so the words are quite a bit less important than that we allow these images to kind of imprint on our psyche and begin to work on our psyche, and then begin to bring these things into manifestation. They're going to show us and help us ease the way as well with this particular layout. And so we've got you in the top middle is the issue, the topic, what's going on, representing what we're looking at, whatever it's going to show us. On the bottom, we have this timeline of past, present, future. That may just be reflecting a vignette. This is what happened, then happened, this other thing happened, and we're now looking at it because it was so important. It really bears reflecting on. Mm-hmm. Or it could be what's going on right now, and we're doing a little prediction of what you're going to flow into as this dynamic goes into the future. And there's some advice, cautionary advice to the left, supportive advice to the right, in terms of how best to move forward with this for your greatest good. And then we'll pull at the end, towards the end, a perspective card to give us some additional reflection. Might you have any questions at this point?
No, not yet. I'm excited. Come on, Jeffrey. Right. Pull some good cards for me.
Do it, baby. All right. So here we go. And this will be fun. So thanks for being with us again today, Minnie.
Of course.
I am shuffling. Yeah, and you say stop, Minnie, where you want to stop to be.
Okay. Stop.
There. And do you want to cut the deck, and how many times do you want me to cut it?
You can cut it twice.
Twice. 1 and 2. And then we will look at that middle card in the top row, the subject. Mm-hmm. And that is the strength card, actually. Mm-hmm. And then we have the past card. And it is the 4 of Swords. And we have the present card. And it is the Hanged Man. And we have the future card, and it is the Hierophant. And then we have the cautionary card, and it is the 10 of Pentacles. And last but not least, we have the advice card, and it is the High Priestess. So there we have it. We wait with the 7th card.
All right, thank you. So for our first card, this isn't our seventh card. We're just going to put the first, our significator into focus. And Minnie, I can see you busily taking notes and everything, and you're welcome to do that. But of course, we have this recorded, so you can relax and just kind of let it wash over you right now, or do whatever works for you. You do you, you know. And so let's look at this beautiful strength card, because this is you. This is your position right now, and so I would say that you have grown into a maturity that allows you to be emotionally stable. You have, you've wrestled with some things in your life. I don't think that this has been the easiest of life paths for you. I think you've worked. I think you have wrestled with a lot of accomplishment and family dynamics and demands that have really made you create like working routines and just like you're a machine. I don't know, but that's the impression I get from this, is that you really have it down to such a degree that you're able to really perform great feats in with seemingly very little effort. And I also want to just remark here that in a reading with only 6 cards, understanding that the majors are a slight less than a third of the whole deck, and you have now more than 2/3 or 2/3 of the cards showing. And so there's a disproportionality of majors in this, meaning that we're looking at a kind of an internal process for you and a very significant growth experience for you, or moment for you, or time of life for you, shall we say. Now, you being such a machine like you are, you being so accustomed to accolades, certificates, degrees, recognition, accomplishment, and not that this isn't, and I'm not saying this because this is an ego thing, much less. It's actually just, it's part of your, it's just who you are. It just happens because that's the level that you function at, is the impression I have here. And so in that way, the period that we're looking at, which is centered on this Hanged Man. So let's take a look at that Hanged Man, if you don't mind. And you'll see Kefri, he's like busily doing something else because each of these majors has a Hebrew letter associated with it. So he's busily trying to decode what all Hebrew letters can be made with these 4 sounds, you know. So we'll have a little a Hebrew word thing at the end of this to
cool.
Also consider, because that's worth considering. And so being such a strong woman, being such a person of mastery as is displayed in that strength card, it's got to be hard to be kind of hung up and in this period of time that is right now where you're like building the business or figuring it out, and it just doesn't feel like forward motion. And that's hard for you because you're used to feeling like the wind in your hair kind of deal. And so it's taking some, I don't want to say humility, because that makes you sound like an egomaniac, and that I do not get that sense at all, but rather that you are someone who understands herself very well. And so you are accustomed to being able to like look at your calendar and mark progress, and you're not seeing it right now. And that's a frustrating thing for you.
Very true.
But take heart, look at the halo, look at his tree pose, look at the, you mentioned the meditations that you are doing or do periodically. This person is also doing that as well. This period of difficulty, or this period of so-called reversal, is like a wave, and the wave requires time for, and I don't, you know, you're on the East Coast and the waves are kind of little lappy waves on the East Coast, but we're out at the Pacific, and I don't know if you've been out here.
Oh yeah.
You probably have, but sometimes you'll be out there in Santa Monica or something, and one wave, and it's like drawing back and drawing back and drawing back and drawing back and drawing back, and then it comes up and it's like 8 feet, 9 feet, and it comes up and over, and there's a powerful thing there. And so this period where it feels like inactivity for you, let's just, in your mind, it might be helpful for you to consider yourself like a wave. Women are like waves. And we require also that that period of buildup of energy. And like a wave, this is your period of buildup of energy, even though it feels like you're not moving forward, because in our culture, we have a metric of constant forward motion, which is not very realistic, but it's in our culture. And we're very driven by it, whether we agree with it or think it's a good thing or not. We still are very influenced by it. And so please remove any judgment that you have of yourself in this period of time, because this is an extremely important period of time for you to gather yourself. And then as we look at what preceded this, is this Four of Swords, Kefri. That Four of Swords is what came before this. And so, thank you. This has been a bit of a long period of time, because it seems like even this period of the Hanged Man was preceded by a period of kind of peacefulness or enforced rest. Perhaps these are the illnesses you were talking about. Perhaps you had an illness. Perhaps there was something that just maybe this is COVID, honestly. This could be something where you're forced into inactivity and contemplation. And you are, by hook or crook, required to stop thinking and let what is next come whenever it comes. And so this period of time that has come before now, I do believe that you have either just birthed or will be birthing the new plan that's reflected under this reclining guy. And that's probably what the Hanged Man is doing right now, is engaging this idea and not coming out with it quite yet. Maybe you are still cooking it, you're still incubating it, and it's frustrating to not know what you're doing. You want to know what you're doing, and so even when you were mentioning your business, you were saying, well, if I could, it's still a dream for you right now. And so I'm going to encourage you to begin to manifest that dream. So let's look at the two cards, which could not be more powerful in this, on these right side cards. Let's look at the Hierophant, or the Hierophant, in the red-robed right-hand position there. And so this is what's coming up. So from this period of enforced rest, which perhaps is COVID, or perhaps you had a job change or something, perhaps you retire, I don't know what it was, but it's this idea that you're used to being I'm going back to that 4. So I'm reflecting back. So this period of enforced rest, and now this Hanged Man period currently, or whatever was next with this, what am I doing? What am I doing? It feels like I'm not moving. What's after that is the move. This is your coming out with your robe of mastery and teacherliness, and your program, and your clearing and growth and movement action plan. This is you coming to help people who need it. These are the ladies. Maybe they have hair loss, your ladies. Maybe they're so stressed out, these poor ladies, that they're losing their hair. They're thinking so hard. They're not in their flow, and you're going to help them get in their flow and relax their little scalps, Honestly, it's very true that as we get more into that masculine vibe, these things overtake us. And so perhaps it really is a return to the feminine that you're going to help them. And this is a very masculine looking card, but it's basically the outward face of that high priestess. Or let's call it the organized system that the high priestess has integrated into her being. So this process that you have integrated into your being, which is that high priestess recommendation right now, and we'll look at that more closely in a moment. This Hierophant figure, which is the Pope, or the priest, or the teacher, or the social mores, it's the rules. What you're going to be bringing out is a new set of rules for women to live by, to preserve their own sanity, something along those lines. and keep them from losing their hair and their head and their minds, something along those lines. My system is going to keep you sane and keep you from losing your beauty and your femininity and your crown. We're going to restore your crown, ladies. That's okay. There's going to be something about the crown in your work.
That's so interesting you say that. If I can just interject really quick,
Please.
Because the image that I use for my company, it's not like something I'm using as part of my logo, but it's on my website and on my Facebook page, is actually a chess piece, the queen, with a crown on her head.
Yes.
And so that is that image I love.
Beautiful. So look at the nice match and look at this triple crown on this Hierophant. Now, interestingly, also, we talked here today about this idea of a horizontal kind of timeline path through life. And then we have these moments like your meditative moment, perhaps like my meditative moment, perhaps like now, where we're having a chance to just consider what the moment contains for us. And in that way, and consider it's like, oh, there, you're getting crossing. That's what that figure does. He kind of blesses people. But I lost my train for a moment there. This triple the nail. So there's a triple crown. There's also 3 little nails up there. And so we're on a horizontal and we're on a vertical. The mystical meaning of the Hebrew letter that is the Hierophant is the nail, which is that hinge point where we recognize ourselves, our spiritual path, as well as our life trajectory, the timeline, as well as our vertical timeline. Or vertical, vertical line. Excuse me. So the crown is important to you, and I just was kind of focusing on these tonsure, these monks that have their little baldy heads there, and I just think that you're going to help women to recover their crown chakra and to recover their beauty and their purpose and their calling, and that crown is your pathway to the divine. So that magic wand we were talking about, that connection to the intuition, is all about the crown, and you'll see it in different cards. And so perhaps we'll see it more in the cards that we have here. So anyway, you're going to step out as that queen, by the way, and you should consider some kind of garment that you can wear. I noticed this garment, you've worn it a couple of times. That color, that line is very supportive for your femininity and your lushness. And so you'll be considering those kinds of ways of presenting yourself in a way that's very queenly, I think, because people will need to recognize your leadership. They are going to be looking to you for leadership, and you're going to have to assume it, and so that they can trust you. If you are too humble and too self-effacing, you're going to be too close to where they're at, and they need you to model something more aspirational for them.
So a couple of things with that is, one, because I have been the person to really, for a lot of other people to depend upon in my past and in the work that I've done, I feel like I have exuded a lot of my masculine energy, just decision-making skills, moving quickly, solving problems, that kind of thing. And so that has been a little bit exhausting. Like I am kind of ready to enter a different, place in my life.
That is so reflected here. It's really quite amazing. So let's go and take a look at that high priestess. Because the recommendation for you is just to settle into yourself and draw inward to recover your femininity, not your dynamic outward power, not your yang power, but your yin power. Sit in your yin power. Let the energies come to you. That magnetism you will need to model it because it is a central aspect of femininity, and you're going to need to be that for your people. So you can't be beating the bushes as a salesperson. If you're going to have someone do that, have somebody else do it for you. That you need to definitely farm out. Because you need to sit on the throne, and that is not an appropriate role for the queen to go out and hustle. And you've been hustling your whole life. Not hustling. I mean, you've been accomplishing at a high level. So let's go look at that 10 of Pentacles. This is a card of accomplishment and more.
Mm-hmm.
The coins, the pentacles on the card. By the way, for those who are wondering, the 5-pointed star on those pentacles is our 5 senses that we use to apprehend the world. And so in this world, you have been the one to really make it happen, it seems. And this is no longer your recommendation. You no longer have to be the head of family. And the main breadwinner and the responsible one for all the pentacles. And in fact, that focus should not be your focus right now. It will come. It will come with just the natural consequence of this offering and how people respond to you. So you're going to need to give it a bit of time and not worry about the money, because that worry will only constrict, and that then unclears the same clear channel you're trying to show people how to clear. And so you yourself have to work with that worry as part of your own leadership process. And then then as this can be removed from your plate as your main role then is to, and look at both of these figures on the right side. They're sitting between pillars. They are sitting in a balanced place. Let's go back to the High Priestess, Kefri, if you don't mind, before we go to before I hand off to you. No. This High Priestess is just recommending that you really not sit tight and just draw in. You were mentioning something in our little lead up to the show about your attitude lately, and it reminded me of an attitude that we had contemplated in our COVID study group that Kefri and I met in. And it was Paul Foster Case, who's an old tarot guy from the 20s. He's a mystical guy. He talked about the idea of remaining in calm expectation. So you talked about the manifestation. And so it's the idea of not worrying about it, of not forcing it, of not insisting on it, of recognizing that we as humans, our little ego is not really going to direct our manifesting power that well. We really need to leave the manifesting to the greater spirits that flow through us and let them show us what we need to manifest. We can feel our oats, so to speak. We can test our theory by saying, I would love to have such and such. And that's okay. And if that such and such is aligned and it's, then that's good. But it's hubris to say, look what I did, I conjured a car or whatever the thing is, in fact, the car came to you through channels of generosity that you positioned yourself to kind of receive. But you were the recipient, really, not the giver. And so in that way, that clear channel really needs to remain clear and humble. And a student, as well as a teacher. So that clear channel is constantly cleaned by the constant process of self-cleansing and so the processing you want your students to do, you also will be doing. The tarot study I want to share with our students, I want to also be deepening myself on a daily basis myself, so that we are walking the talk. And so both of these cards on the right side, they're both so beautifully spiritual. You've already mastered the physical to a large degree, it seems, with that Strength card. And this period of seeming lack of movement with the Hanged Man is really just a period for you to learn how to stop running.
Yeah. And that is very difficult. That is very difficult. And I just had a conversation about that this morning, coincidentally, with somebody, one of my mentors. And I was actually, talking about that, how it's just so frustrating. And I'm just kind of like waiting for this thing to take off. And, it's just so interesting that you're bringing that up now.
It's so interesting that you also chose the Empress, because it is perhaps an experience that you're not unfamiliar with, having gone through your pregnancies, that you just, it doesn't matter if you want it to come.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't
Right?
have control.
You have to give, and then if it's going to be late, it's going to be late, you know, and so it's so and so you can't, and yeah, you can't hurry love. And so you're really looking at channeling love as well as part of your mission. And so you have to just position yourself to channel it and wait in calm expectation for
I
it
love
to
that.
show itself and channel through you to your willing students, as you are a willing channel. That's that's what I'm seeing in these cards. We'll have one more to go, and I'm going to hand off right now to Kefri. Minnie, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alison. I look at it a bit the same as Alison, actually, but I look at the strength card from the beginning here, and the astrological sign that is connected to that is Leo. So that is the sun, actually. And I can feel that you are in the sun for the moment, so to speak. You start to be able to see a reason for what you are doing, and there is light around there, so you know that you are on the right way, so to speak, but it's still a struggle to keep it balanced, so to speak. But that balance is in there, actually. And there is a lot of magic in these cards, actually. Alison has already been into it, but we have two cards basically that is very magical. And of course it's the High Priestess, but it's also the 10 of Pentacles. That is a card that looks very easy to read, but it isn't so easy to read, actually. And you have that in your cautionary position, and I think it means that don't go deep in esoterical teaching, trying to look at it in a scientific way, because you won't get the answer that way. You get the answer from the High Priestess, actually, because the High Priestess is a very mysterious woman, actually, because you can see she has the Torah in her lap, but you can't see all of the Torah. So even if she reveals something, there is always something more to discover, actually. And you discover that by going by your intuition. You do not discover it by going by your mind and logic, actually. And that, I think, is also what is the secret in your development, actually. When you let go of the scientific trying to prove it and everything, then it reveals itself, and then it comes, actually. And in this card there is also a secret symbol, and that is a camel, actually, in the High Priestess. And I think that is that you have a vehicle you can ride onto the mysteries on, so to speak, if you sit on it and let it just take you where you should be, without protesting and without trying to prove it scientifically or try to understand it, because this High Priestess is a woman that is very difficult to understand, because she has a lot of secrets that she keeps, and she won't reveal everything to you at once. She will reveal it in portions, actually, in combination with your own development. And as Alison already has said, this is a beautiful similarity to the Empress that you was choosing from the beginning, because that card, as we talked about, is about growing, and this card is also about growing, but this is a growing in a mystery sense, so to speak. This is growing in another reality, so to speak, knowing that there are something more than your eyes can see, actually, or your scientific principles can prove to you. So that is in here, actually. And this high priestess is also, she is not guarding the entrance to the temple. She is actually guarding the exit to the temple. And here I think is also the thing with what you do when what you want to do, when your aim and your dreams and everything, because you will be the one that is guarding the exit of the temple, so to speak, letting those women's go out in life after you have advised them or counseled them or helped them, so they can go out into a new situation and look at things with different eyes. I think that's in here actually. And this is also about the moon, of course, because this planet that rules this card, so to speak, is the moon. So there is a lot of feminine energies here, and it is a mysterious energy. And this this goddess that is here is actually, or could be, Isis, the moon goddess in the Egyptian, looking at it in the Egyptian goddess world, so to speak. And you also have the tree of life behind her on the pomegranate, actually, and that is the same tree of life that you have in the 10 of Pentacles, actually. But still she hides it from you because she doesn't reveal it all, actually. So there is a lot of secrets here that you should discover, and you will be excited when you do that, actually. And I also think you can go in, as you have been telling us, that Hinduism is your way of taking up the spirit, so to speak. I think you can go deeper into it and see what is the mystery there, because there are a lot of mysteries there, as you know, and there is a lot of goddess figures and so on, and there could be something you should discover there, perhaps.
I could definitely see some exploration with the different faces of Kali.
Yeah, and also looking at the past, present, future. We have the period that you have experienced is like a waiting period where you have been pondering things and taking it easy, and you haven't had any choice other than do this. And this can be the pandemic that you was into, Alison. And the Hangman there, I think, it's the enlightenment that you have found in that process, actually. And also we have the Hierophant in the future here. And that is your future role, actually, because you will be a sort of a preacher or an initiator for your projects, what you are doing, actually. And that is in here. And there is also two secret words in here that I have deciphered here, and one of the words, it's actually three words, and it is innocent, honest, and naive. And I think that is how you can meet the spirit energies, actually, by being innocent, honest, and naive, because then they will present themselves to you like you told us that they did in the meditation you did, because you didn't expected anything from that, but it happened. And I think that is that. And going the other way of the cards, there are two words there, and one is preacher, and that is going back to the Hierophant again. But then there is also another word, and that is divorce and divorcing. And I think that is in this also, that you must divorce some form of things here, and that could be your science, your original position with the science platform, so to speak, that you must divorce from to discover the spiritual and the mysterious things, actually.
Would you also say, Kefri, that could be the masculine energy that I've been
it could be. It could be that also, because it's a lot of feminine energies in all those cards here, actually. So
Yeah, and
that's,
what I tend to do is I tend to be the one that makes the quick decisions that,
yeah,
helps people with that portion of it. So
yeah.
I'm wondering if maybe that's it. Like I need to back off from that
Yeah,
side of
yeah.
my
I
yeah.
think you need to be more, again, these words, the innocent, the honest, and the naive. You need to be more playful when you are working with those things. You need to be more calm and playful, and that could also be going back to the Hanged Man. Actually, the
Uh-huh.
enlightenment is in the calmness here, actually, because
Yeah.
that card is also connected to water, watery energies and emotions.
Yeah.
So that could also be it, actually. And I just draw the seventh card, actually, and it is the Ace of Swords, actually. So that's also beautiful. I don't know if you want to say something about that, Alison.
I wanted to refer back real quickly, if you don't mind, Kefri.
Yeah,
You mentioned between that 10, and so we were talking about this idea of divorcing the masculine aspect,
yeah,
or
yeah,
I wanted to look at another image-based thing. So let's take a look at that 10 of Pentacles and then
yeah,
the High Priestess. So notice the 10 of Pentacles. Notice, and a minute, you just look up for a sec here. Notice how these coins are in the front. The money is in the front here. And so it's telling you, background, the money. Go over to the High Priestess. That configuration of coins is now behind her. The pomegranates behind her are configured in the same way. This is telling you, you already mastered the money. You already did all that. You have been the breadwinner. You have pulled down a lot of money in your life, And this is telling you that that's not the driver at this point. That is that you've already mastered that. That's already behind you. What this is now is a different process. You do not have to go make this happen. Rather, you're going to allow this to emerge from you. So you're going to birth this thing, right? And so looking back at that Four of Swords there in the past kind of position, now we have this big Ace of Swords coming out as a big, and let's put that ace up there, please,
yeah.
Kef. So there's, see that ace, see that one sword that's down below? Now this seems to have been revealed. And so this thing that you've been thinking about working on is now, is for you to, this is now the third. You've got the clearing and the growth and the movement action. Movement action could not be represented any more clearly than by the Ace of Swords.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that is also, it's also a very mysterious card, actually, because there is a lot of things in there that we see, all those fiery things here that is actually Hebrew letter Yod. And they also mean something, and they mean the highest form of energy, actually. So that is in hide here for you. And this sword is coming from a spiritual world, because it comes from the cloud. The hand comes from the cloud, actually. So it's there. So it's there for you to take it now and do something with it. So to speak.
Yeah, the
And there's the
timing is
crown.
all very interesting. I feel
Yeah.
like that was the crown again. But
Yeah.
yeah, because today again I was talking with my a mentor of mine, and because I felt confused. I felt like there were so many paths. Which path do I take? I feel like I've been working on all these paths and it's just exhausting me. And then she said, just pick one or two. And she showed me how to do it. And now suddenly I feel calm, like, okay, now I know the path forward, because I'm going to let everything else, all the noise, filter away. The comparisons, I'm much more of a collaborative person. So sometimes when I'm around people who are, I feel like, oh, wow, they're doing this. I should be doing that. Why am I not doing that? Like it's still that masculine energy side where I feel like I have to follow that. But then there's that part of me that's like,
There's
no.
only one winner. There's only one winner, and it's
Yeah.
only one pie. And it's scarcity, scarcity, scarcity.
Scarcity
And so,
mindset.
right.
Yeah. But I feel like my personality is much more the collaborative personality. Like, what can we do so that we can all win together, and let's do something, but even that is becoming exhausting, because I kind of feel like there's so many potential collaborations, right? So now I'm just backing off a little bit and picking the one or two things that I need to do, that I still feel like my life can be somewhat balanced, because I feel like it's gotten out of balance.
So maybe your decision is just to let it come to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the strength card there is a balance, actually, and as I said, and you are acquiring that balance now, when you are starting to do that, actually feeling that you have a base that is balanced, so to speak, to develop this idea that is in the Ace of Swords, actually.
I'd like to point out another little visual feature here. Looking to the left, which represents the past as well as the non-recommendation, all of the people have bare heads. And then we come to you in the present with strength. You have not only, let's look at that strength card, please.
Yeah.
Not only do you have a crown of roses, you also have the infinity sign above you as a kind of halo. Down below, let's look at that hanged man. His hair looks like the crown of the Hierophant, and the crown is growing out of his energy from this period of reversal. Looking at the Hierophant, he is now, that hair that was hanging down is now fully golden and solid and standing up with the little nails to be able to, remember that we are not only on the horizontal track, that we are both. And then finally, the High Priestess is crowned by the moon, and that veil is behind her, so that urgency around the money is behind her. The urgency around the emotions is under her foot. It's not necessary to go through a lot of changes and just calm down. You've got it under control. You have learned the lessons, and you're still learning them, but you don't have to run around. You just don't have to run around anymore. That's over.
Yeah, and look at her dress also, because that is a flowing river, if you look at it, actually. So that is also, and it's connected to the hangman also, that is water.
Oh, yeah.
I wonder if you will consider perhaps even adorning yourself with just, I don't know. They have some lovely little things out there. We did this cruise recently, and there was a toga night, and people were wearing these little tiara things. They're just like little golden leaf tiaras. Oh, so beautiful. I wonder, you don't want to go crazy with it. You don't want it to be ridiculous and artificial. But on the other hand, as you begin to become yourself, a certain amount of your branding, shall I be so crass, should include that crowning.
So maybe a beautiful barrette or something.
Something along those lines. Just always something to highlight the crown. Maybe you're going to be having a flower like Billie Holiday always had. Maybe you'll have a beautiful comb with, maybe there's going to be something, or maybe it's going to be sometimes you're wearing a hat because sometimes you need a hat, or maybe you're going to be outdoors. Who knows? I don't know. So just consider, or maybe that's going to be part of the swag for your ladies at the event, is that everybody's going to wear a little tiara or some kind of a thing that is not a cheap ass one, a really nice one that is very regal, something Kali, something Athena, something something mythic.
Yeah,
I like that.
Just to bring in the symbolic life. One of the books that I really appreciated, and you talked about this earlier, was the idea of doing, and so in the Hinduism, that so many of the things are rituals. Well, the purpose of the rituals is to make us remember the non-physical. Is to put our mind into the non-physical. And so that's just the purpose of the branding, or the purpose of the accoutrement, is to allow yourself, is to just, when I get on camera, I kind of do it up with the jewelry just because that's a little bit of part of I am, and I like it. It's part, everything has a story. All my stuff has a story. And so, and I wear my stories.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
part of my
It reminds
affection.
you.
You
Right.
know, exactly. It's a pleasant
Yeah.
thing. I think of my mom, my grandma, my grandfather,
Yeah.
all these they all have, I feel so fortunate to have these beautiful, mementos.
I know, and I
So
think the vision board is something like that too, right? Because we just look at it all the time. I have one sitting here, different from what I did with the Colette Baron Reed thing, but I have one sitting here, and every time I'm working, I can just glance over there and look at it.
yes, exactly, and that's important to do that. I have some images I've had around my desk for years and years. I've got some little prayers and poems and things like that that my eyes can rest on and remind me of, and those things are very important. In addition to the the ways we move, those ritualistic things, there's also the things that we have within our environment. And so all of those things might be a part of what you encourage your students and your clients to do for themselves as touchstones, as reminders of who they are, as reminders of their own queenliness or princessiness or whatever it is that we're highlighting, their priestessness, their empress nature. All the different aspects of their femininity. You could run through these tarot cards and find all kinds of wonderful archetypes and then see which ones people identify with and why. And then that becomes something to really begin to highlight and build out from in terms of their own cleansing and moving forward, things like that.
Yeah.
Different images of Kali. I could see a big thing with Kali Ma and different Kali images and exploring all the different kinds of ways of feminine power, and it's okay to be all these things. We have such taboo in our culture, especially around so many aspects of that, of femininity.
Yeah. I think all cultures, even in Hinduism and Indian culture, I mean, on one hand,
the power of the woman is terrifying.
Yes.
Yeah. But then so is the power of the man. There's that old Margaret Atwood line, men are afraid that women will laugh at them. Women are afraid that men will kill them.
Yes. That's true.
But women are very powerful, and I don't think we know it because we've been convinced otherwise. And so perhaps that's part of the what you're going to help them recognize is what you have been integrating yourself.
Well, also for my own daughters.
Yes, indeed. And their friends and all the women to come, indeed.
Yeah.
So that's the tarot flow, my dear.
Oh, wow. That was amazing. That was
so you'll have a copy of this. After you sleep on it, you'll let me know maybe tomorrow or in the next couple of days if you're okay to share this on the interwebs.
Yeah.
And then we will take it from there. I really appreciate your being here. You're welcome back anytime to do a follow-up or to perhaps sit in and be a co-host and to offer your commentary on cards with other guests.
Yeah.
I would welcome any of that. And of course, we have our interview show so that we can focus more clearly on what it is that you're building and offering in the future. So I look forward to that.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. And Alison, I would love to have you on my podcast at some point. And Kefri, I would say you too, but I'm only interviewing women. So sorry about that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I look forward to it. And I want to thank you again. Any parting words, Kefri or Minnie, before we say bye-bye today? Oh, Minnie, this is something. So what if there's words to the wise that you could say, if there's some kind of recommendation, some kind of life lesson that you always want to give people, give us that as we sign off today. What is going to be some words of wisdom from you? What's been important for you to remember as you go through life as successfily as you have done?
Oh gosh, I think it's just
not to put you on the spot or anything.
Well, I mean, this comes to me fairly easily, but I think the whole just being authentic and not feeling like you have, and I think especially to our young women and our girls that are growing up, and honestly even men, because I think men feel like they have to hide behind a bravado, just be authentic to who you are, because who you are innately is just going to come out so naturally. And so you don't have to be something different. You don't have to be all powerful and able, because all that's going to do is exhaust you, because you're not being your true self. So just, that's my advice, is be your true self and be open to your subconscious. Be open to all the possibilities that maybe we don't understand.
Wonderful. Yeah. I should have had you say that at the beginning of the show so that everybody watching could get it. But those of you who stayed to the end, look what a blessing you got. So thank you, Dr. Minnie Gupta, for being here with us today. Thank you, Kefri Scarabus, for giving us such perspective. And everybody, will see you next time on the Tarot Flow Show. Thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.